everything I say is true and I'm not going to try and say the word that I'm thinking of because I might say it wrong, but I'll look it up in controvertible. What I was looking for. Incontrovertible. Yes, I did say it right. Incontrovertible. So I've already won all the arguments. So the next obstruction I face is all those people who won't acknowledge it. A little earlier, I was talking to an American who is predictably hostile to the idea of secular Quranism, and they say things like, you just want to impose it on the world. And I can't deny it. I do want to impose it on the world because I think it's the best thing. And I'd like to discuss why it is the best thing. So it would be nice for me to find somebody who has read the Quran, who understands politics, so we can have a nice old natter about the whole thing. But it is part of the evidence that I present to you that because I can't do this, your moral system has failed. So in a properly functioning moral system, well, you would need me to tell you where you've gone wrong. And if there was something going wrong, you could report it to, well, the person in charge. But there's no one in charge now, which is why your moral system is not working. So basically, I asked, do you have a copy of the Quran? And if so, are you prepared to read it? And then I thought, I actually asked him to read the farewell speech of George Washington, and I bet he hasn't. And I'm going to ask him now. He hasn't. See, he's a techie type, and they can't really deal with any this kind of formal reasoning. They just can't do it. You know, they only know what they know. They might be able to type grammatical sentences, but their reasoning ability is extremely limited. So what takes over is emotion, hatred, fear. And those are not good reasoning tools when what is required is the examination of the meaning of words. So my ideal person to speak to would be a rabbi who understands, who has read the Quran, who is it possible to be all those things well, okay, who is legally trained? That would be the ideal person for me to talk to, and I know perhaps he doesn't exist. But with some combination of these qualities should be found in an individual somewhere in the West. Surely there are so many lawyers in the West. There is an oversupply of lawyers, and you would have thought that some of them might be prepared to read the Quran and discuss it with me. but not a bit of it. One of the more productive chats I had yesterday was with Tiffany, to whom I am extremely grateful, because she doesn't agree with me, but she can talk about things in an honest and rational and civil way. So, well, the men ought to be shamed by her, because they can't do it, can they? Daniel can't do it. Daniel only streams as an exercise in self-therapy. He can't express himself properly. He has words that he uses in a peculiar way that causes people on his side to mock him. And women, sometimes they have maternal instincts. Sometimes even I have a few maternal instincts, and you want to go up to Daniel and say, there, it's all right, really. What seems to be the problem? And then he talks about homeostasis, hermeneutics, and Cartesianism, and Locke. When you ask him, what's wrong, dear? What's wrong, little boy? My point is that your moral system is broken. If you can't find for me someone in your nation capable of dealing with my points, you can say nobody wants to talk to me, but, well, nobody in the groups that you associate wants to talk to me. Obviously, I have the wrong message for nationalists who are Islamophobes, and even if they're not Islamophobes, they don't want to alienate the Islamophobes. That is really the problem. It's all fear and the assumption that anything they do will fail, so all they do is fall back on the assumption that after what they have done has failed, what are they going to do? And also, they can't analyze their emotions. They can't they don't understand moral reasoning because they have no morals. They have no morals because they have no principles. They have no principles because they have no religion. So what they do is they make up things that they believe in, such as the Jews are to blame for everything that's gone wrong. And it's nice and easy to remember, isn't it? It's like, whatever's gone wrong in your government, blame the Jews because you can. Or, we thought we could. And now the censors are closing in on us. What I thought was previously allowed is no longer allowed and could result in a jail term. So what is one to do? One has to systematically investigate the problem. And I'm saying I have. So what is the problem with these people discussing my findings with them? Because they already know my conclusion. They already know my solution. And they don't like it, and they don't want to, and I can't make them. Now, what would an adult do in this situation? Well, I would know that no adults in Western civilization are there. What I'm doing is talking to children in adult bodies, in arrested adolescents, in a teenage sulk. They don't know anyone. They actually don't know anyone they could pass my question up to. They don't know anyone because they are social and political pariahs with no connections. And everyone hates them. Even the people of their own race and nation. I'm the only one who gives them the time of day. Daniel Sienkiewicz. I spoke to him for 3.5 hours. I spoke to him for 3.5 hours and he still can't explain himself properly, and he's still doing it, 3 times a week on his own channel, and nobody knows what the hell he's on about. Occasionally a kindly woman of whatever race might pass through and say, "Dear, what's wrong, Daniel? You look forlorn. What seems to be the problem, Daniel? Would you like a teddy bear?" So Dr. Mengele asks, who are these vile anti-Semites you speak of? Where did they come from? Well, they would come from Gentiles who are complaining about their government and blaming Jews. I know there's a lot of repetition that is required in teaching and learning. I'm prepared to do it. But I wonder at the neurosis of people that I've said things to quite a lot, and they even complain that, I repeat myself. I do repeat myself, I admit that, because I have to. Hello, Midnight Rider. I repeat myself because I have to, but it doesn't seem to do any good. But okay, my hope is that the few words that I use to describe my big ideas is capable of being remembered, even if it's into disjointed phrases. It's like, oh, so that's what Claire meant when she said Christianity is kaput. When theocracy is the only vehicle if patriarchy is the destination. Hello, effluent for you. And there'd be the usual tropes, the anti-Semites will always go on about the Khazars, and then they'll say that the Jews who call themselves Jews aren't really Jews, They need to believe. It's their religion. Imagine when you get to such a state when anti-Semitism is your religion, and you're not going to give it up because your identity of being an anti-Semite is so important to you that you'll defy all reason because your identity is important to you, even if it's the wrong one. Practical Quranism, effluent for you, suggests. You think that's going to work? Well, I've been told that people say it's not the secular that is the triggering factor. It's the K word. So I'm saying the fact that none of you can find anybody to talk to me about secular Quranism is a sign that your moral system is broken. So I know nationalists won't be able to find anyone prepared to talk to me because their identity is about not talking to me. Right? Imagine having an identity of not talking about certain things because you're scared. Am I scary? Am I? Well, Tiffany was, in a tactful way, saying, well, perhaps they're a bit intimidated by you because of my encyclopedic knowledge on theology. I do listen to myself. Sometimes I frighten myself. Ha ha. Shall I change my manner? Shall I sound more ladylike? Is that what you'd like? Shall I refrain from swearing and making my points in an emphatic way? Shall I giggle at the end of my sentences? Will that help? Okay, Dr. Mengele seems to have a genuine question. What's your knowledge of the Khazarian Jews? It's the Jews that other Jews don't acknowledge to be Jews. Is that it? You know, it's the usual list of things that anti-Semites like to use. So you tell me why I should know about them or care. Now, what I've been saying about white people who don't like Jews afflicts Jews too. So that's why I'm not really getting any traction from them, because they don't know anyone in charge either. So that's a problem. They don't know anyone who's in charge of them either. So that's why things are going wrong. Things are going badly. Well, Ryder, thank you for telling me about your religious friend who wanted to be a Catholic priest. Some people need to worship something. I don't have a problem with that. Some people might worship a thing without realizing that is what they are doing. Um, People who talk about idolatry, religious Jews and religious Muslims, are quite sure that what they mean by worship is being motivated by it. So you know that Jews and Muslims are aware that even if they are apparently praying correctly, they might be guilty of thought crime. You know, if they go through the motions of prayer but they think of other things, that would be idolatry. And it is thought crime. They are actually thought crimes in religion. I do understand, but it's not the sort of thing that others can deal with. So it's a matter for God to deal with your thought crime in your afterlife. Howard, why do you ask me these things about? After I've gone on about Christianity, I mean, okay, I think you think I'm going to join some. There's actually a nuns called the Poor Clares, so I know that. Hello, Diana. Dr. Mengele says, denying the Holocaust and making songs about survivors is a thought crime. Well, it's speech crime, right? You see, thought crime. You can say there is thought crime, and people will know not to think certain things. So that would lessen the possibility that they will say certain things. So it's a sort of phased approach. I'm basically saying that there shouldn't be any thought crime because it would be a matter between you and your maker if you believe in these things. In the liberal West, discrimination is a thought crime. So we have thought crime too. It's in the Equality Act 2010. Many men are scared of intellectual women, I believe, Dinah says. I said, okay. I mean, I think Tiffany has said it before. Sometimes you need to say things to me more than once before I get it. Well, if they don't want to talk to me, they can find me someone to talk to, right? I mean, that would be the sensible thing. It's like, oh, this is beyond my pay grade. Go and talk to whoever. I mean, that's how it's done in the civil service, isn't it? You just pass up, the problem. Okay, I'm the problem. I'm demanding to be dealt with. I want the issues I raised addressed. And really, if you are in a functioning society or in a group that is in any way suitable for its purported purpose, you'll be able to find somebody like, well, you need to go to the Department of Truth, or the Department of Love, or the Department of Plenty, something like that. People in your group should know where to send me to, instead of saying, oh, no, we're not going to deal with your question at all. Yes, so in the chat, there are these men saying that they have, well, that's actually quite nice, Dr. Mengele, that you've accepted a meal in the homes of Muslims. I was going to say something. Sometimes I distract myself from all the things that I say. Okay, I'm going to accept that maybe people do find me intimidating. And I did say earlier that sometimes I listen to my own streams and frighten myself. So I'll try to be nicer. I'll try to be nicer. But it doesn't mean that I've forgotten about it, that, I no longer want to talk to anyone, that you don't have to do anything, you don't have to address any of the issues, and you think you can just ignore me and forget about me and everything will be fine. Yes, there are plenty of thought crimes, I mean, you know, thought crime between you and your spouse could be, well, you not loving him or her. Thought crime between friends is, well, lack of friendship. I see. I see Ralph has rolled up. What do you want to say to me? On what matter am I delusional? Let's hear it. You won't be able to say on what matter I've lied about. He won't be able to give further and better particulars of the claims he makes about me. Yes, what you say, Howard, is interesting, that people use the rules to hurt each other. Okay. I've got some more interesting things to do now than repeat myself. But I will try to sum up what I'm trying to say to you. That if you have a functioning society, you will have some mechanism to deal with people like me. You would know which department to direct me to. Let's pretend I am an alien from outer space, and I've just arrived in my flying saucer, and I want to see the person in charge of the moral system of the West. Now, who would you direct me to? You can all confer with each other. I mean, obviously not white nationalists, because they don't know anything and they're infamous for their lack of education. So it'll have to be somebody more senior. And somebody in government, in a senior position in government. I don't know, the Attorney General, the Solicitor General, the Chancellor, people like that. But in Britain, these people don't last very long. So it would be civil servants in these government departments. Yes, Dr. Mengele, I said earlier before you arrived that, preferably the ideal person I would like to speak to would be a rabbi who's legally trained and who has read the Quran. That would be so perfect. And, preferably in a senior position in government. But I don't think I'll even be able to find that in Israel. Rudy Giuliani, he's Catholic, so he won't like what I say. What's he doing these days? Is he still... He's retired, hasn't he? Yeah, I do try to talk to rabbis. Maybe you can send a few my way, So, let me put it to you again that I have two routes to power. Well, two routes to getting secular Quranism adopted. That's what I really mean. So, to do it properly, there are two ways. So there are the theological supporters of secular Quranism, and there will be practical supporters of secular Quranism in the West. So as an agnostic, I had to consider the possibility that God exists and might help me if I'm doing things right and going through the proper channels. And I accept that, if God did indeed create humanity and did indeed divide humanity between Jews and Gentiles, then I have to, well, go through the Jews. And it's obvious it won't be any ordinary Jew. It'd have to be a rabbi. So that's why I concentrate on rabbis. And that rabbi has to, well, I mean, it would be great if he were, chief rabbi, but I know the problem with chief rabbis, they don't really have moral authority amongst Jews, and not supposed to have chief rabbis because the rabbinate, or the rabbinate, chief, being a chief rabbi is actually a sign of Gentile domination. But I do need to find a rabbi who is influential and honourable and understands the world. So I'm working on that. But for Gentiles, I just need to talk to white, middle class, college educated women. That's what I need. And then thank you, Tiffany, for being prepared to talk to me and being so reasonable and so kind. And she said, Tiffany said, what did she say about secular Quranism? She said she might mention it in a few of her circles that she mixes in. So I'm grateful for that. And so I've got a woman on one side of the Atlantic who's prepared to give her real name and say the things that I hope. Well, just raise a question. I'm not even asking these women to agree with me. Just to raise a question with other women. But I haven't got one on this side of the Atlantic, which is sad. But I will be patient. I have no choice but to be patient.